Let's study about the states of matter. What are the states of matter? Now we all know the three common states of matter. The first state is the solid, the second one is liquid, and the third one is gas. Solid, liquid, gas. Now scientists have brought us with two other states of matter, very interesting, that is plasma and the Bose-Einstein condensate. We will be learning these two later and in the other video. So these three matters have their own characteristics. The first one is solid. Now this picture depicts us that the particles are so near and are tightly packed. We have learned this earlier, that the particles in the solid are tightly packed, and in this liquid they are intermediate, and in the gas they are loosely packed. Now in the solids what happens is, if they are tightly packed and the movement is less, and the characteristics are that it has a definite shape. Yes, it has a definite shape, and it has a definite boundary, and it has a fixed volume, or I can say definite volume. In the liquids what happens is, it has indefinite shape, it has indefinite boundaries, but has a definite volume. It has a definite volume. Now in the gases it happens is, it doesn't have definite shape, or it has indefinite shape, it has indefinite boundaries, and it has indefinite volume, or else I can say it doesn't have any boundaries. Now in the previous video we have studied about kinetic energy, how melting takes place, how solid melts down into liquid. Now we will just be studying about that, but deeper, and we will understand it as a concept. Now when solid is heated, it increases its kinetic energy, and when kinetic energy is increased, the particles start to vibrate, they start to move. In simple, I want to tell you that is, they make space between themselves. When they make space between themselves, the situation gets such that there is space between particles like liquids. When the solid melts into liquid, the melting, that is called fusion. And when we melt down liquid, the heat is in the same temperature. Where did the heat go? Now to learn this, I will tell you that the heat is used to change the state. Now when I put heat or apply heat, the solid uses that energy, that is heat is energy, so energy to change its state to liquid, and that energy is now hidden, and that is known as latent heat of fusion. Now let me make you more clearer. Fusion is changing solid into liquid, and latent heat, that is hidden heat, hidden energy used for changing solid to liquid. That is called latent heat of fusion. Now can you identify when we melt liquid or boil liquid and make it or change its state into vapor? That is known as latent heat of vaporization, and for that we need 100 degrees Celsius, or I can say 373 Kelvin. Now this latent heat of vaporization is related to evaporation and is also related to cooling. Now how? Let us learn about pressure. What will happen when we apply pressure to these states? Can they change their state? Yes, obviously. Now, have you heard about solid carbon dioxide? Yes, solid carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a gas, and when it's kept in very high pressure, it changes its state into solid, and we call it as dry ice. Now, we have learnt and we infer that the state, that is temperature and pressure, determines the state of the matter. How amazing it is. Now earlier we have learned that temperature decides the state. Now we are learning that temperature and also pressure determines the state. And let's learn more about this. Now let us observe this image. What this image tells us is the solid, when heated, changes into liquid, and when liquid is heated, it changes its state into gas. Now when again gas is cooled down and got into, we will apply some pressure and cool it, it can change into liquid. And liquid is cooled, it changes its state into ice, that is solid again. But we have some problem here. Some solids don't change into liquid, they directly change their state into gas. That is known as sublimation, and this image tells us the same. Okay, if you have understood this, let's move forward and solve some questions. Now the first question is, do always we need to heat water to change its state to gas? I think not always. There is a process called evaporation. Now in simple words, when water or liquid kept uncovered, it will change its state slowly to vapor. Now I'll tell you reason behind this. What is the reason? Now the reason is, when we leave water uncovered, what happens is the surface area of water, the particles at the surface of the water have more kinetic energy. Now you all know different kinds of matter have different amount of kinetic energy. At liquid state, the surface have more kinetic energy, or the particles with higher kinetic energy vibrate more, they disturb more, and they have chances to break out from the force of attraction between particles, and they get evaporated, or I can say that they are changing their state from water to gas. Okay, now let me discuss about the factors they are causing for evaporation. Now the first factor is the surface area of water, the most important factor. If surface is more, the particles with higher kinetic energy are more. Now there is more chance to getting or to break from liquids and get into gas. Now another factor, that is the temperature. When there is more temperature, the liquid can change into gas easier, because the particles with higher temperature have higher kinetic energy, so they change into gas. Now the other factor, that is with lower humidity. Now in the earlier grades we have studied about humidity and what is it. Now I will recap some things about that. Humidity is amount of water in the air. Now when there is less water in the air, atmosphere tries to get it more, to increase humidity, and to increase humidity we need evaporation. So evaporation takes place. And the other factor that affects evaporation is the wind speed. Okay, wind speed will take out and break out the particles with higher kinetic energy and blow it into its path or along it. So these were the factors affecting evaporation. So let us understand about evaporation, how evaporation leads to cooling. Now we all know this, but I want to make you clear about this concept, how it leads to cooling. Now in the earlier days, people used to sprinkle water in the summer to cool down, to make it cool. Now how they would, let me tell you. Now when we sprinkle water on a hot surface, the water, the latent heat, the large amount of latent heat would get hide. It would be hidden and evaporation takes place, and when the water gets evaporated, the water tries to regain the energy from the surface, and you know heat is energy, so it tries to get heat from the surface, and when it tries to get heat from the surface, it gets heat and the water gets evaporated. This is how the surface gets cooled. When the heat is removed from the surface, there is no heat remaining. So this is the reason, because of when the heat is taken outside, there is no temperature remained in it. So this leads to cooling. Now we understood about how evaporation causes to change the state of matter. You know, we are learning more and more things on behalf of this video. So please like this and share before you leave. So let's continue this video with other concepts. So the next concept is, why should we wear cotton cloths in summer? Now we will relate the latent heat of vaporization to this. Now you know cotton is a good absorber of water. Now when we wear cotton, when we sweat, the cotton will absorb that sweat. Now when it tries the same, when we sprinkle water on the surfaces, it tries to regain the heat. So the water tries to regain heat from our body. You know, when we get heat, we sweat. When we sweat, the cotton cloths absorb it. When it absorbs water, the water tries to regain heat from our body. So when it takes heat out from our body, it gets evaporated. So the other thing or factor that affects cooling by wearing the cotton cloths is reflection. You know, white light is white in color. So when we wear white clothes, it reflects. You know, when north poles of magnets are brought near, they do not attract, they dispel. So when the white light will hit the white surface, that is cotton, will reflect. If you wear black cloths, it absorbs.